welcome to the Gender Reveal Party! Just a few quick notes before we get started. Very excited tonight to have sign language interpretation by Stacy Hun. So give it up for Stacy. I did want to let you know a content note about tonight's performance. Tonight's performance does contain references to sexual assault and suicidal ideation. Also wanted to let you know before we get started, if you could please check your cell phones to make sure that they are off or not ringing. That would be great. If we all get a severe thunderstorm warning in the middle of the show, we don't want a cacophony of beep. So if you can do that, that would be wonderful. We do have a mailing list for future shows. And we would really appreciate it if, even if you're already signed up to the J. Pryor coaching mailing list, you can get on the Gender Reveal Party mailer, because that will have information not only about upcoming shows that are going on, but also about what's happening with the show. And I think it's a very special and amazing show, and I'm excited to be a part of watching where it continues to go from here. So do that. And I think that we want to make sure that's everything that I had to say. Yeah, I think that is just about it, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. We'll go ahead and get started, and welcome to the Gender Reveal Party with J. Pryor.
Hey! Welcome to the Gender Reveal Party. My name is J. Pryor, and I'm going to be your host for this evening. Just so you know, first of all, we want to get clear that you're in the right place. This is the Gender Reveal Party, where gender will be revealed to you in ways that you probably haven't thought about, might even blow your mind. This is the Gender Reveal Party, which is essentially the story of my life, born a little girl in 1966, to this gorgeous figure you see before you today. The Gender Reveal Party, where after 27 years of LGBTQ activism and education. Sorry, there's a sound feedback here, so if you could turn down the monitor, I'm not sure where that's happening. We need Matt. So after 27 years of LGBTQ activism and education, and me sharing my heart out, hoping to transform and love the homophobia and transphobia out of you, today I'm telling it gloves off, down and dirty, raw and real. Welcome to the Gender Reveal Party. Now, some of you may have attended a gender reveal party in the past. If you've attended a gender reveal party, let me know. Let's make some noise. Anybody ever attended a gender reveal party before? Nobody? Oh my God! Well, let me tell you about it. These gender reveal parties are usually when some young woman is about to have a baby, and they have a party, and they either cut the cake, or they have big balloons, or something to reveal the gender of the child. But let's get honest, folks, those are not gender reveal parties. Those are really genital reveal parties, people. Yes, genital reveal parties are very popular. You get all dressed up to go to a party that's themed about an unborn baby's junk. That's right, genital reveal parties, people. So just so you know, that's not this. Wait a minute, did any of you come here for genitals? I would not be surprised by that, because every trans person knows what you all really want to know is what's in my pants. But before we get into my vagina, let's step back into my mother's. It's 1966, and I'm about to come on the scene. Let me tell you a little bit about what I'm being born into. My town is 1 square mile big. It's 500 people. My dad is one of 2 grocermen in town, and in his grocery store, he also has a butcher shop. So he's a grocerman and the butcher, and he also happens to be the mayor, ultimately run uncontested for over 30 years. If I could give you a reference, you might think of Andy Taylor in Mayberry. Remember how every little old lady came to Andy for everything? Every little old lady in my town came to my dad for everything. So he's Andy, and I'm Opie. Only I have 8 siblings. there's 4 boys and 4 girls. And I broke the tie. Sort of. They called me Janet. Genitals, female. Gender identity, little girl. The most vivid memory I have of being a little girl is being lifted up out of the bed of my molester. Too soon? It's one of those memories that doesn't have any emotion attached to it. I'm watching from the corner of the room, and in the clip in my head, his wife comes in. She's really angry. And I know that I'm small enough to stand up on the bed, and she picks me up and puts me down. I don't know where I went after that. I don't know if I went home. I don't remember. I don't remember if it was the first time or the last time in his bed. I just don't remember. My experience is that there's lots of women that have memories like that who grew up in the 70s. By the time I hit elementary school, I was full-on tomboy. I had a uniform, just jean shorts and underwear. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning or a summer day and just throwing on my jean shorts and thinking, I'm dressed for the day. This is awesome. Every tomboy and every boy in my town dressed the same way. I heard the phrase, because you're a girl, really often. You can't shoot that rifle because you're a girl. You can't play football because you're a girl. You can't go hunting because you're a girl. I learned early that if I wanted to do what I was into, I had to be tough and persistent. I earned my way onto the football field by being annoyingly persistent and able to dish out anything that they could take. But it wasn't until 3rd grade that I got put up against somebody. See, I'd been privy to this culture in my town where the older boys would decide who they wanted to see fight who, or who they would put up against who. It was kind of like the first Fight Club. I remember vividly the day they put Bobby Joe up against me, and I knew that they were trying to humiliate Bobby Joe, and I knew that the worst thing that could happen to a boy was to take an ass whooping from a girl, but I didn't mind doing the ass whooping. I loved to play football. Army was my favorite game. Genitals female, gender identity tomboy. Now, remember, while I'm doing all this tomboying, I am also being classically trained female. Classically trained female. Janet, get in here and do these dishes. Classically trained female. Now, honey, don't sit like that. Sit with your legs together. Classically trained female. Folding clothes with my mother while my brothers do nothing, wondering, why do men have skid marks in their underwear? Why are they so nasty? Classically trained female. So things are pretty good until about 6th grade. In 6th grade, all my friends came back to school as aliens. I swear, the summer before, they were playing football with their shirts off, just like me. And then in 6th grade, they came back to school, and almost all of them were wearing bras, and they were carrying purses, and in those purses was makeup. And the conversation of the day was who had started their period, or who was about to. Because according to one of the moms of my friends, you were not a woman until you started your period. To add insult to injury in the middle of the year, my mom decided it was time for me to wear a training bra, because apparently these things need to be trained. So I find myself standing in JCPenney, spread eagle, with a bra getting strapped around my clothes. It was humiliating. And the most weirdest thing is it just seemed like I missed out on the joke, or like I just didn't get something, because all these girls my age seemed like they knew what to do, and I just felt awkward and weird. It solidified a conversation I'd been having with myself for a while called, "There's something wrong with me." So here we go. 6th grade, no period. 7th grade, no period, still not a woman. 8th grade, no period, still not a woman. Freshman year, still no period. End of my freshman year, spring. Oh, algebra class. I just knew. Mr. Holmes, can I go to the bathroom? going ahead. So I go in the women's room, and sure enough, I mean, I've been having this conversation for years. I know what to do. Get some toilet paper, put it down in my granny panties. What are you, some fancy girl with bikinis or something? Put it down in my granny panties, get them up. It was a very specific day, that day I remember, because it was one of my first debate and forensics tournaments as a freshman in high school. And my mom had sewed me a new suit. It was a brown corduroy skirt, one of those straighter down kind, with a blazer. And with a white button-down shirt underneath, it was the most masculine clothing I'd ever had. And I looked studly. Then I started my period. So I think, well, I'm leaving school early today for this tournament. I can go to my forensics teacher, who's a woman, and she can help me out. So I went to my forensics teacher and I told her what happened. She said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. And I said, okay. Sure enough, we get on the bus. And before the bus pulls out of town, it pulls into our local IGA. My forensics teacher gets off the bus and goes inside. And she comes back with a box in a paper bag. And she hands it to me. Thanks. I think the redness finally left my face when we pulled into the parking lot of the school where we were having our competition. I waited till every other kid got off the bus before I opened the box. Finally, I looked in there. These things were, I mean, there wasn't very many. They were huge. I pulled them out. I don't carry a purse. I don't know what to do with them. So I figure I might need two. I stick one in each side of my blazer. Got a little poofy blazer coming off, but I'm okay. I get into the bathroom. I pull one of these things out, and sure enough, it's tri-folded. It's bigger than I thought. So I open it up, and bam! It opens like a life raft, knocks me off. It was crazy. Seriously though, these things are at least this thick and at least this wide, with a giant strip on the back of them. So I pull the strip off, get it down on my granny panties, and I start pulling those things up, got the hose going, everything, got the other thing in this pocket, so I'm a little lopsided, and I'm trying to figure out, how do you walk in this thing? How do you, wait a minute. Oh, you can just ride it like a saddle, that's it. So that's how I rode my way into womanhood. That summer, I grew like a boy. I grew 5 inches and went back to school 5 inches taller with hips, ass, and size C tits. You might guess my life got a little different. Also remember, I'm still being classically trained female. Classically trained female. By now, I know at least 3 recipes that can feed 10 people each, and each one of them is made with Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. Classically trained female. By now I can babysit 4 kids at one time, ages 10, 6, 4, and 2. Not only are they all in bed by the time their parents come home, but the house is picked up and tidy. Classically trained female. And by now, I'm also having other conversations with women and girls who are folding laundry while their brothers are doing nothing, still wondering, what's up with the skid marks in the underwear? Like, that is disgusting. What is wrong with them? Classically trained female. I should also let you know that at this same time is around the time that I first made out with a girl. Now, I had been kissing boys since 6th grade. It was no big deal. But when this girl kissed me, whoa, my head exploded. It was literally like fireworks went off. It was so exciting. And I had this moment, right? This moment. I knew something was wrong with me, and all of a sudden I had this moment of clarity. And it was like, oh, that's it. I'm gay. And the next breath was, fuck, I'm gay. What? I can't be gay. Opie can't be gay. Opie, no gay. No way gay. Did I mention the big family? They're really Catholic. Like, my dad prayed the rosary every day. At Sunday, he was the lectern in church every Sunday. He's a 4th degree knight in the Knights of Columbus. My mom is the president of Ultra Society, and every one of my siblings is involved extensively in CYO. Opie can't be gay. So I doubled down on Jesus. I tried to pray the gay away. I doubled down on Jesus. Now at the time, I've had the same boyfriend since 7th grade. We're juniors in high school at this point, and the Holy Virgin Mary Act is not his favorite. So he breaks up with me. So now, I'm very sad, brokenhearted, freaked out about what a queer I am, and heading towards suicide. My junior year of high school, I drove my parents' car 100 miles an hour down a country road, and I flipped it. I was so pissed when I came out without a scratch. But I got very clear that the Holy Virgin Mary Act was doing me no good, and I should go with the other Mary and hit up Mary Magdalene because being a slut could have its advantages. So I picked the boy I was going to lose my virginity to, got that out of the way, and then started getting drunk and sleeping with boys any chance I got. I had to be drunk to do it, but it was a good strategy. See, being a lesbian in that town was not safe at all, but being a slut, it was okay. I remember the beginning of my senior year when one of my friends said to me, "You know, this guy came up and asked me if you were gay." I said, "Gosh, what'd you say?" She said, "Janet Pryor, she's the biggest slut I know." And I thought, I guess it's working. It's my senior year of high school. I'm so drunk I can't stand up. The guy I lost my virginity to and a buddy of his come by in a pickup truck. I get in with them. I know what's gonna happen. Somewhere along the lines, I passed out. I remember them carrying me into the house. And then I remember one of them on top of me. And then I remember the other one on top of me. And then I remember one of them trying to enter me from behind, and I punched him. Then I remember waking up naked, vomiting in the toilet. And then I remember waking up and putting on my clothes and asking for a ride home. When I got back to my friends where I was spending the night, I told them that it felt like I had been raped. They reminded me that I got in a truck with them. Another year of suicidal ideation and I landed myself in a psychiatric unit. Now, this was the best thing that ever happened to me for a number of reasons, but for this story, it's the first place I met my first butch dyke. I remember standing in line for my meds and hearing the elevator door open, ding. I turned around. It was like Fonzie stepped out of the elevator. She had black motorcycle boots on and black jeans. She had a white t-shirt on and her sunglasses were clipped in her shirt. She had a leather jacket on and her helmet under her arm. She stepped off the elevator, looked both ways, and walked. And I just followed her. Turns out her girlfriend was in the unit dealing with depression. And while she was there for the next couple weeks, I got to hang out with that lesbian couple. And they were the first lesbian couple I ever hung out with. And that butch was the first person that ever said to me, "You know, kid, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just gay." Just gay? What do you mean I'm just gay? You mean I'm not a sexual deviant? You mean I'm not going to hell, straight to hell, do not pass go? I'm just gay? Well, fuck, that's a game changer. Genitals female, gender identity, butch and happy. I was out of the closet, finally, and happy. Part of my care plan in the psych unit was I was not allowed to move back to Southeast Kansas where I grew up. So I moved to Lawrence, Kansas, in with my sister, a college town. When I first got there, there was this bookstore called Spinster's Books, and it was run by a co-op of women, lesbians. I remember walking in the door, and the first thing somebody said was, "Hey, who's the new baby butch?" And I was home. These were my people. It was amazing to me. The older femmes used to like to tease me because my face could get red almost immediately. I mean, I was so naive and knew nothing about anything, let alone lesbian sex. There was this one older femme that I had such a crush on. And every time she walked with me, she would take my arm. She made me feel like I was 10 feet tall. She's the one who first started calling me Jay. And then one time she wrote it in a note and spelled it out, Jay. I was Jay ever since. There weren't very many of us, but we would find each other. We were desperate to see ourselves in the media, so we would get together and watch this old B movie called Desert Hearts over and over and over again. And then later, when The Hunger came out, we would wait with bated breath for the scene where Catherine Deneuve and Susan Sarandon would make out. Yeah, it was so hot. Then in 1990, my dad got sick, and I went home to see him. My dad and I hadn't always gotten along, and I wanted to make sure we were cool. He was so sick that he didn't want to go to midnight mass. My dad's a diehard Catholic, that's a big sign. So I said I'd stay home with him. After all my siblings left, I said to him, "You know, Dad, it seems like you might be dying." He said, "Yeah, kid, but I'm worried about you." I said, "Worried about me?" He said, "Yeah, you know, I've been here for every other kid's first kid, and I've been here for every other kid's first mortgage. And when I'm gone, you're on your own financially." I told him I could handle it. And he said, "Damn it, Janet, then get your education." And I promised him I would. My dad died 3 months later. So I promised my dad on his deathbed that I'd get my education. It took me a couple of years to get my confidence up, get the money together. And the thing is, I didn't know any butch dykes in higher education. Every butch I knew had a blue-collar job, just like I did. So I figured I needed to probably fem up a little bit. I grew my hair out. I asked my sister to give me some makeup tips. I bought a power suit. And in 1992, Janet Pryor started university. Genitals female, gender identity, power lesbian. Almost immediately, I got involved in the gay student organization on campus. I loved it. I started sharing my story of being a suicidal youth and making a huge difference right away. It was so fun for me. It was a pretty cool time to be gay then. I mean, it was 5 years before Ellen would come out, but she had already been on Johnny Carson with a mullet. I mean, we knew who she was. And Katie Lang blessed us so much with constant craving means I love pussy. Craving, aha, constant craving has always been. Hey, Katie, we appreciate her so much. It was, thanks. It was my spring semester. I was loving school. The academics were a little hard for me, but I enjoyed it. I was doing a lot of activism. It's right after Pride. Lots going on. Finals are coming. I'm a little stressed. I'm taking this class in human sexuality. And it's one of those classes where the class size is bigger than my whole town. I remember crowding in the hallway, and then I smelled this barbershop cologne that I hadn't smelled before, and I got bumped, and bam, I'm in that room again. Only this time, I'm terrified. And I can't move. And I keep having these flashes of being in that room. And then I got bumped again, and I ran home. And I tried to just like go home and smoke a bowl and blow it off. But it was like I opened a door or something, because next thing I know, flash, one of them's on top of me, and then flash, another one, and then flash. He's trying to come for me behind, and I like missed like 2 weeks of school. And so I found a therapist. She started talking to me about my brain and trauma and how that works. And we try to work on forgiveness. Forgiveness for them and forgiveness for me. Forgiveness for my body for betraying me every time I smell that barbershop cologne. And then they put me in a group. My name is Janet Pryor and I'm a survivor. Fuck that, I'm not a survivor, I'm a thriver. I hate that word. I don't fit, I don't get it, I don't fit here, I hate this. Then I stayed and I listened got grateful, and I became honored to sit with them. And then I got it. My name is Pryor, and I am a survivor. Genitals, female. Gender identity, woman. Just after I graduated, a group of us went to the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force Conference. It was super cool to be a student activist amongst the national activists. They threw a dance for us the first night there. And across the dance floor came the hottest, smokingest femme I'd ever seen in my life. And I may have my own self-esteem issues, but I never had trouble stepping to the ladies. So I stepped, and she stepped. And we had a lovely weekend. But somewhere along the line, she asked me if I identified as a butch. And I said, yeah, I do. So she asked me, what's with the hair and choices and the makeup and stuff? And I told her, I just felt like I had to do that. I mean, even Katie Lang, you never see her without eyeliner and a woman's blazer on. Pretty sure she's not at home looking for her lipstick. But I felt like I had to do that to be successful. She said to me, I don't think it's you. After that weekend, she went back to Brown University and I came back to Kansas. And she sent me a book called Stone Butch Blues. That book changed my life. Not only did it remind me that I'm not the only one, that there's lots more people out there like me, but it also gave me the courage and empowered me to live my life more authentically. So I threw out all my girl clothes and I got my hair cut. And I went back to calling myself Jay. I had a girlfriend at the time who was pretty internet savvy, so she found a butch femme listserv that I started interacting with other butches and femmes out in the world. And then she and I went to our first butch femme gathering in Dallas, Texas. It was phenomenal. Once again, I was home. These were my people. It was so amazing. It also made me very clear that I needed to get out of Kansas. So I organized my life to leave Kansas. It's my last night in town. My coworkers had taken me out for drinks. We're at a bar, and we're drinking, and there's a guy there who's interacting with some of my female coworkers. He was fine, I'd talk to him. But later, as the bar filled up and the drinks kept flowing, at some point, this guy motions to me, like he wants to tell me something. So I lean in to talk to him, and bam, he punches me right in the face. Now, first of all, let me tell you how big this dude is. The next day, I had a black eye and a bruise from the bottom of my lip all the way up here. This dude was huge. So, bam, he punches me. I stumble back, but I don't fall down. I pick up a pool cue, because this fool doesn't know I'm third grade Fight Club. I'm ready to whoop his ass. At the same time, one of my friends jumps up and says, "What did you hit her for?" And I see this guy look at her, and then look at me, and I see the recognition come over his face when he realizes that he had just hit a woman square in the face. He falls to his knees sobbing. Now, I don't know about y'all, but where I come from, you can't just whoop somebody's ass who's on their knees sobbing. So I threw down that pool cue and we left. And it was the beginning for me of a lot of valuable lessons that I learned around the differences in how men and women are treated in the world. See, it was okay with him to punch me in the face if he thought I was a guy, and especially if he thought I was a faggot. But it's not okay to punch a woman in the face, especially in a crowded bar. So 1999, I moved to Washington, D.C. Through my connections online and girlfriends online, I immediately connected to the butch femme trans community out there. It was fantastic. I mean, the fact that there were more than 4 of us was a heck of a good start. Pretty soon after, I started hanging out with these guys who had formed a support group. They called themselves DCATS, DC Area Trans Masculine Society. Shout out to my DCATS brothers. I understand this group is over 150 strong now. But when I was there, I was one of the first 13 guys that started this. Now what happened was every time we'd get together, another guy would have started testosterone or had their breasts removed or something. The bottom line, I just started getting jealous, really jealous. So I sought out a good therapist and we talked about it. I had a couple of issues. The first one was my family. I didn't want to freak them out. I'd already put them out through a lot of stuff. But I figured through good communication and showing up a lot, they could handle this. But the next thing was I didn't want to lose my dyke card. And when I say I didn't want to lose my dyke card, I want you to get that, like, I've always been part woman. I didn't do this to become a man. I wanted the beard and I wanted the tits gone. And I was jealous of these guys. But I never wanted to be a man. So I figured, well, I just have to be a very out trans person. And I'll just be really out, and everybody will really get it, and it'll be great. So, April 1st, 2001, I took my first shot of testosterone. Genitals female. Gender identity, gender queer. Now, the doctors told me that my ovaries were going to atrophy and go through menopause. And at the same time, I was going to go through puberty like some of you cisgendered men did at the age of 14. Now the trans guys told me about the horniness, and everybody knows that a 14-year-old boy is horny. But you don't know things until you really experience them yourself. Let me just say by now you've probably figured out that I was loathsome of my own breasts. I mean, they basically kicked me out of Fight Club and ruined my football career. But once I started testosterone, I was grateful to have a pair to play with. And that worked out really well for me until they got hairy. I'm sorry, I've just never been into hippie titty. It's not my thing. No. Now the second thing that happens when you first start testosterone, no doctor's gonna tell you about. But all the trans guys told me about it. But again, you don't know things until you really experience them. See, first let me give you a biology lesson. If you don't know this, men and women's bodies are very similar. In fact, in utero, we all start out as female. Then that Y chromosome comes in, and that's when the mons pubis, right, turns into a little scrotum, and the clitoris turns into a penis. So if you take a female body and you put it on testosterone, fat redistributes, and I'm driving down the road one day, and all of a sudden I feel something in my pants. I'm like, oh. So I reached down there. It actually made me jump a little, because what I felt in my pants was a very erect, very hard penis. Only it was this big. That's when I met my dicklet. Good deal, right? So they tell you that testosterone is going to take 7 years, and it does. It takes a full 7 years, like a guy being 14 to 21. But it feels like things happen overnight. It feels like you wake up and your pants don't fit, and that's when you realize that man with camel toe is not a good look. And it seemed like I woke up one day and there was no hair here, and it was on my ass. And I'd never really slept with men, so having a hairy ass was not something I expected or knew was gonna come. My wife was bisexual, she'd been with men, so I said, honey, what's this? I got a hairy ass. She's like, men have hairy asses, it's not a big deal. I'm like, well, should I be able to grab this? Because that's weird to me. It's very, very weird to me. It's also when she started calling me fur pants. And it's also when I'm embarrassed to admit that I learned a few things about skid marks in underwear. Because see, ladies, I know we'd like to think that men are just nasty, and to some degree they are. I mean, why do you have to pee on the floor all the time, all the time, all the time? But in this case, I have to admit that if you have hair in your ass crack, cleanliness is elusive. And so, well, let me just give you a tip. Here's the deal. I don't care if you wipe until your ass is bloody. If 10 minutes later you feel itchy ass, do not scratch it. Get in there and clean that up, because I guarantee you have a dingleberry on a hair in your ass crack. Thank you. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. I can't reiterate how important it was to me that people understood that I was part woman. I mean, it was all kinds of things. First of all, a lot of my trans friends were either dysphoric about or disgusted by their own genitalia. And my vagina and I have always had a great relationship. Second of all, it was my herstory. You see, I cut my teeth on feminist gatherings, women-only women-only spaces, lesbian potlucks. I mean, my go-to karaoke song was I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. So I'm not kidding about that. So everywhere I went, I came out, and I came out, and I came out, and I came out. But no matter what, you forgot. So whether I liked it or not, I was an undercover white guy. Now, the first time I remember really being undercover was the first time I went back to my small town. Now, unfortunately, I was there because a tragedy had befallen my family. My sister-in-law had been diagnosed with cancer and given just 6 months to live. When she was close to the end and was home in hospice, my sisters and I came back early to help with my brother, help with the kids, help with the house, you know, things women do during such times. It was such a trip being back in my hometown IGA. I mean, I'm standing there and people who I literally went to class with, teachers, they're walking right past me. Otherwise, they would have expected me to say hi, or I would have said hi, but they didn't even recognize me. It was fantastic. But the thing about being from a big family is there's a strong family resemblance. I mean, if you line up all my siblings, basically we look like the same person with different hair. So people would know that I fit into the family somewhere, but they couldn't figure out where. So if they had the courage to approach me, they would always start with, "Which one are you? Which one are you? Oh, you know what? We went to high school together. You know me. I'm Janet. I go by Jay now." "Oh, well, you make a much better looking dude than you did." "Thanks. Now, honey, which one are you?" "Oh, ma'am, I'm Oni and Larry's youngest. You'd know me as Janet. I go by Jay now." "Oh, where's your mother?" "Which one are you?" "Oh, you babysat me. Come on, I'm Janet. I'm the youngest. Obviously I go by Jay now." Swear to God, that's what she did. Turned around and just walked right off. Funniest thing about this, every time I go home these days, I'm home for a wedding or a funeral, that woman is always there. And when I go through the line as she's serving or whatever, she just acts like I don't exist. She just looks right past me. Makes me feel all warm and loved up inside, every time. Now, I didn't get all negative responses, had a couple of really good ones. For one thing, I saw my oldest brother for the first time in a couple of years. When he saw me, he said, "Wow, I had no idea you were so uncomfortable in your skin. Until now, I see how comfortable you are." And he's right. I was walking taller. I was feeling a lot more confident. The second person was at the graveside. I saw her coming. She just caught my eye and whispered, "Janet." And I just nodded. And then she pulled me towards her. She hugged me. She hugged me like somebody she'd known and watched grow up their whole life. She hugged me like nothing had ever changed. And she hugged me like somebody that had just had a significant loss in their life. You know, my experience is that there's a few of those crunched up, pointy-faced ladies in the world, but there's a lot more Mary Johnsons. and I'm grateful for that, for sure. In 2003, I had my breasts removed and my chest reconstructed. It was one of the best days of my life, only to be topped later in the year when I got to not legally marry the love of my life and my best friend. See, back then, 2 vaginas couldn't get married, but we had a big old fat gay wedding anyway and had a blast. She has always been the best thing I've ever done in my life, the best decision, that she's the love of my life, my best friend. And it's funny, when I come out to people after being undercover, often people say things to me like, I knew you couldn't have been a regular guy. No regular guy talks about how much he loves his wife as much as you do. This is a time in the show where if you were watching a movie, you would see a montage. This montage, you would see my wife and I madly in love, taking dancing classes in Washington, D.C., me trying not to do the white man's underbite. It's really hard when you're doing salsa and focusing. You would see us hanging out in our butch femme trans community, and we were the only people that had a house, so we hosted a lot of parties, and we had a great time. You would see me get way into personal development and become a coach, start my own business. And we would have a hilarity reel of all the times that I came out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you forgot and you forgot, and people forgot and forgot and forgot and forgot and forgot, until we land in my mother's living room. She's watching Oprah, and Oprah has Dr. Oz on. My brother and I are visiting from back east, and we're in the kitchen. Boys, get in here. What's going on, Mom? This doctor says you need to get your prostate checked every year. Are you doing that? Mom, I don't have a prostate, I have ovaries. Oh my God, I forgot. And forgetting, and forgetting, and forgetting. In 2007, my siblings and I had a conference call about my mother's health. The results of that conference call ended up in my wife and my brother and I moving from the East Coast back to Kansas, one sister coming back from Chicago to the area, and the rest of my siblings were already here around. Essentially, we circled the wagons. My mom was 87 years old and had dementia, and it was our turn to take care of her. Now, moving back to Kansas was not an easy decision for us. We were in Washington, D.C., one of the most diverse cities in the world. And we had a huge butch femme trans community that really understood us. Now, my wife likes to do research, so we know that we were moving back to a town that was 87% white and had no trans community at the time that we knew about. But our biggest value is family, and family comes first. So in 2007, we moved back to Kansas. And believe me, the forgetting got worse. My wife and I were trying to have our own kids at the time, and she couldn't talk to anybody about it because the few times she did, she would hear the most insensitive things. Stuff like, well, I bet you're having fun trying. Sure, if you think holding my wife's legs in the air after inserting her with a syringe full of my brother's sperm is sexy time, then you betcha we're having a great time trying. Thanks, straight people. Forget. In 2008, the town we moved to was debating about whether they should add gender identity to their human rights ordinance. My wife and I were interviewed, and I was on the front page of the paper. I thought, this is so great. I'm on the front page of the paper. I'm out to everyone. Now everyone knows. I don't even have to tell people, they'll just know. You'd be amazed how many people don't read the paper. My wife and I gave up on having our own kids, and around the same time we got introduced to foster care. We thought that being foster parents and adopting through foster care would be a great way to fulfill on our commitment to have a family and still benefit our community. So we started the foster care process, and everywhere on every piece of paper, I'm dad and I'm the father, and everywhere we go, that's how it goes. And there's not really an opportunity, and even if there is, to come out to people, it's not the conversation we're having right now. So I'm dad, and I'm way in it. We get our kids around the same time that my mom dies, almost exactly. So while I'm grieving the loss of my mom, I'm watching these two children bond with my wife as their mom. And it is so interesting and crazy for me because it wasn't supposed to go like this. My vision was more like Heather has two mommies, but now I'm the dad, and it's totally different than the mom. In addition to that, I thought that when I got kids, what would come out of me would be my classic female training and my mother. And my mother was the kindest, sweetest lady you ever met. The harshest thing she ever said to me was, "Now listen here, lamb chop." But instead, call it the grief, call it the testosterone-soaked brain, I don't know. But what came out of me was not my mom, but more my dad. While my dad was a good guy, he could be scary and mean. And I found myself saying things like, "You want to wear your ass for a hat?" And then wondering why these children are terrified of me. Now, fortunately, my job in life is to transform things. I'm a coach. So I transformed it. I wrote a book about it. And then my classic training had kicked in. But it was all around the perfection of being a woman and having to try to do it all perfect and all right. And the stress of that almost knocked me out. But I transformed it, and then I wrote a book about it. And then I started coaching women exclusively because I had this insight into having been a woman and having been a man. And I could see the sexism everywhere. And even though I spoke it, I was like a dog whistle that nobody could hear. But I kept speaking and I kept working with women exclusively, but I wasn't doing a lot of activism. I wasn't out there so much. And then in 2013, my best friend stepped into the bathtub and blew his head off. Now, if you're an out trans person and you don't know somebody who's died by suicide, you probably haven't been out very long. And I've been on the front lines of this LGBTQ movement for 27 years. I'm dealt with the brutality, the violence, the suicides, all of it. But I've learned to steel myself from that, because if I was up in that every day, I would be depressed and sad and unable to make a difference. But this one was different. He was mine. And it wasn't supposed to go that way. But when I get sad, I get busy. So I started speaking more. And I met a couple of other activists. We started going to small towns all over Kansas. I gave my story to the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, and they started telling it all over the country. I started hearing from young trans kids. They would write to me and tell me that my story made a difference. They would meet me and they would say things to me like, "You're the only old trans guy we know." I heard them. What they were saying is, there's nobody like me out there. They were desperate to find themselves. I couldn't save him, but I saved a couple more. At the same time, though, in my world, we're doing play dates now and about to start kindergarten. And I just can't be coming out all the time. It's just not appropriate. And the more saturated in the white male privilege that I am, the more people keep treating me and women jumping up to serve me, I almost forgot. I'm coming up on my 50th birthday. I figure I should get this body in as great a shape as I can. So I figure before my 50th birthday, I should be able to do 50 push-ups. For this show choir girl, that's quite a feat. So I did it. Before my 50th birthday, I was able to do 50 push-ups and 1 pull-up. I was as virile as I've ever been. My testosterone had done its full 7 years. I had a bright red, thick beard with a gray streak right here. Out in public, both young men and young women were starting to hit on me. I think this is a time when you cisgendered men generally go buy a Mustang. So here I am in this world where I'm as virile as I've ever been. I'm feeling as masculine as studly as I've ever been. And then Me Too hit Twitter in 2017. Now remember, I'm exclusively coaching women. ages 35 to 75. And every single one of them has a Me Too story. Then all my trans guy friends start posting their Me Too stories. And then I start remembering. I start remembering all the times guys put their hands on my pants just because they could. I remember all the conversations I had with men about, if I just had their penis, I wouldn't be a lesbian. And then I remembered something that I hadn't remembered before. It was my junior year. After my boyfriend broke up and before the suicide, it was our spring concert, and I'm standing backstage waiting to go on. And all of a sudden, I feel this hard cock press up against my ass. He's a senior, and he's really cute. Maybe he likes me. I mean, I hadn't had a lot of men or boys interested in me. And Jennifer Beals had already danced her way across in Flashdance, so I knew I was going straight to hell. I needed boys in my life. And he was cute, and maybe he likes me. So I do the old reach around, and he does the reach around, and we kind of fool around together a little bit behind stage. Then, of course, minutes later, we had to go on stage. Now, how he did Hello Dolly with a heart on, I'll never know. But he managed it. After the show, at the cast party, I looked for him. I thought maybe, he likes me. Maybe we'll fool around or something. Start dating. Yeah, he didn't like me. He had no interest at all. I mean, he just did what every 17-year-old boy does when they see a fat ass in front of them and they get a hard on at that time. Lean in. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm Facebook friends with this guy. Should I write to him? Should I tell him? Nah. Yeah, you should. No, I shouldn't. Yeah, no. I debated about it for a long time, and I prayed and meditated about it. See, he's got a 23-year-old daughter by now. And we know the statistics. We know she's at least been harassed, if not worse. So I decided I'm going to write him. So I wrote him a note. And I let him know, I know you've got a daughter who's 23. By now, she's at least been sexually harassed. Nothing else, hopefully nothing else. And I'm not trying to bag on you or guilt you in any way. I just need you to know that when we were in high school, I was a suicidal young lesbian, and I was pretty confused. And that little incident that happened backstage, that didn't help. Okay, send. Now I can go back to work. Oh fuck, there's dogs. He's writing me back, right now. Oh shit. He wrote me back 5 words. Will you please forgive me? Yeah. Not only do I forgive you, but I honor you and respect you for taking some responsibility. Because you see, it's confusing to me that every single woman I know has a Me Too story, and so does every trans guy, and yet every guy I know is a not me. I mean, the math doesn't add up, does it? And yet this guy, he's willing to take some responsibility. I mean, something else happened here. It's exciting to me. So I bound up the steps to tell my wife about it, and as soon as I hit the top steps, my daughter has a candle burning I've never smelled before, and bam, I'm in that room again. Flash. There I am. So I put my hand down on the counter, and I feel the cold counter, and I plant my feet, and I breathe. And I look around the room. There's the coffee pot. There's my kids' homework. There's the faucet. I'm safe. I'm safe. Flash. I'm safe. Flash. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. I had those flashes for another couple of weeks. This time, instead of going to a therapist, it might surprise you to know I have a lot of friends who are therapists. I took one of my therapist friends out to coffee, and I said, I'm having flashbacks again. Here I'm the most virile I've ever been in my life, and I'm having flashbacks. She said, well, what do you do when they happen? So I told her. find my feet. I feel things. I get in this moment. She's like, great, Jay, you've got tools. So you don't need to go to a therapist because all they can do for you is give you those tools. Oh, awesome. I've got tools. A couple of weeks later, I was speaking in one of those small towns that happened to be down where I grew up. And I'm giving my normal talk about how I don't fit into this box and I don't fit into that box. And as I stepped off the stage, I realized for myself that I need to start using they, them pronouns. That I've always been a gender non-conforming, non-binary human. There was just never language for it. So I go home and I tell my wife and I start telling my friends I need to use they, them pronouns. I'm a gender non-conforming human and I use they, them pronouns. Now I know that's confusing for some of you because if they're coming to dinner, how many of them are there? I get it. I also like the pronoun Z a lot, and I wish we could get that one going because I really like Z. I also get though that Z sounds like I'm trying to do a fake French accent. Where is J? Z went to the store. Those are my pronouns, and I'm letting you know. I use they, them pronouns. After coming out as using they, them pronouns, I thought, why am I on testosterone? I don't need to be on testosterone. I'm as butch as I'm gonna get. So, July 5th, 2018, I took my last shot of testosterone. Genitals female, gender identity, non-binary, gender non-conforming. Now, going off testosterone was interesting. I'd been off about 6 weeks, and I'm in California amongst the giant redwoods, and I had been invited there to do a keynote speech and a workshop at a feminist summer camp. It was a women-only space, and it was the first women-only space that I had been in 20 years that I didn't create for myself on my own. And I had been there for over 24 hours with over 100 women. I was the only masculine-bodied human there, and they were great. They knew I was gender non-conforming. But I was there for over 24 hours with over 100 women before I realized that I hadn't thought once about some nasty sexual thought about any of those women. I hadn't thought I wanted to bend any of them over. And these are gorgeous women. And I was like, whoa, it's just gone. All the horniness, sex thoughts, they're gone. And in their place was this awesome space that I'd forgotten about, where women connect with women. I was so grateful. When I got home a month later, my wife was teasing me about the fact that my body was confused, and so probably since she's an alpha cow, I'll just start my period right behind hers. She's an evil. Sure enough, that next week, she started her period, and I started mine right after. Now, I had thought that if that happened, it was a game changer, maybe I'd go back on testosterone, but after getting rid of my man brain, I was like, no way. And, you know, I mean, menstrual cycles are just stuff women deal with, right? Stuff we've always dealt with our whole lives. It's not a big deal. So I thought, this is no big deal. I can handle this. So, you know, I have to go get a tampon. My wife uses the generic kind with cardboard applicators, good for her. And so I go in and I open it up and I just get ready. And let me tell you the first thing I forgot about. Labia pinch. Oh my God. Now guys, you don't understand this, but in order to insert a tampon, you have to push one piece of cardboard into another piece of cardboard. And your labia can get caught in between there. Fuck, it hurts so bad. I'm like, damn, I forgot about labia pinch. Whoa, that hurts. Goodness gracious. Okay, get over that piece. Woo! All right, but I'm good. So I get it inserted in there. Am I supposed to taste that? Like, come on. Ah! I earned my Red Wings at 19. I know that flavor. So, clearly, these tampons are too big for me. They don't fit my body. So I have to order my own tampons. I go to Lola.com, by the way. They deliver to get the kind of tampons I need. and I'm good. No big deal. I got this handled. Now, before I went on testosterone in my early days, I never had a regular period. So I thought, surely I won't have one next month. But just in case, I took a tampon with me. And I happened to be at a business training for that next month. So I took a tampon with me just in case. Sure enough, it's 10 a.m., sitting in the training, and I just know. So I get up, I go to the bathroom. Now, I'm in the men's room. Every woman in the world knows the sound of a tampon being opened. But do guys? I don't know. I'm paranoid about it enough, though, that I'm gonna cough over it. Put the cellophane in my pocket. Do this. Maybe a pinch. Got it. Okay. Wrap the bloody applicator and I'll put on my blazer. There we go. So I'm good. I get out. I always have this fear fantasy in the bathroom that I'll be washing my hands and some guy will be like, "What's all the blood?" And I'll be like, "My vagina. No big deal." And I get to the door and I have that moment. Oh, damn. Now I have to poop. Oh, man. Now, every woman knows that if you can help it, you do not want to poop with a tampon in. But if it's your last one or your only one, you better tuck that string. Because guys, I know you don't understand this, but women are taught, classically trained, to wipe from front to back, hygienically. Because it's okay if you get a little vajay juice in the butt, but we don't want and you don't want that string to fall and no. So I'm thinking, tuck the string, don't forget to tuck the string. I get in there and I'm in the room, tuck the string. Then I realize, well, hell, I have a huge clit. I'll just lasso that sucker. It'll be great. No problem. So that worked out really well for me. No problem. I get out, wash my hands, I leave. As I'm coming out, the training I'm doing is on a break. And I see the CEO. One of the main reasons I'm going to this training is to meet this dude. So I see him, he sees me. He wants to talk to me too, I'm excited. He goes, "Jay," I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Good." He goes, "Hey, I'm leaving now. We have to leave now. So give me your card and I'll make sure to connect with you." So I reach in my blazer. I'm a lot of cards. Sorry. Because you know what? I think I wrapped that up pretty tight. But if I hand him a card with period blood on it, I'm pretty sure that's not the way to start a business relationship. Right? Woo! Yeah. So, other things that happened whenever I went off of testosterone, other than my menses coming back on a regular basis, very, very regular basis, is that I lost all the hair on my body. All of it just came off. And just like when I first started on testosterone, it seemed like it happened overnight. I just looked down and, man, there's no hair on my hands. Like, it's all gone. My wife can't call me for her pants anymore. So, what was interesting is when I started sharing with people that I was going to go off of testosterone, the person they were most concerned about was my wife. It was almost as though you forgot so much that you thought maybe she forgot too, and that she was going to wake up one day with a woman in her bed. I don't know. They would say things to me like, "Well, what about Jessica?" And of course, in my Midwest politeness, I would say, "Well, she just loves the person." And they'd say, "Oh, yeah, she just loves the person." Now, the truth is, you know, she's been eating my pussy for 18 years, right? Come on. Good Lord. My wife has always said that she's bisexual. But now that I've lost all the hair on my body and my skin is super soft, considering how much she's touching me, I'm pretty sure she's lesbian leaning. As I mentioned before, I use they, them pronouns, and I want you to know that this is the second time that I'm bringing this up. So the younger trans people, the non-binary, gender non-conforming humans that are younger than I am, when they've told you a couple of times that they use particular pronouns or have names that they prefer, if you ignore them, they call that a microaggression. Now what that means is that they feel like you're being aggressive with them on a micro scale. Now to me, that's like bringing a cocktail sword to a fight with a Ninja Turtle. I'm a hero and a half shell, that shit doesn't bother me. But I will tell you that every time I notice, if I take the time to correct you, I feel vulnerable and scared, pretty much every time. Especially if you're doing business with me. You know, I never finished telling you what happened with my sister-in-law. The day she died, my siblings, my sisters and I were there. All of her children went in to be in the room with her, including my brother. And one by one, they came out. First, my brother came out, and he fell into the arms of my oldest sister there. And then my niece came out, and she fell into the arms of my other sister. And then my nephew came out. I've been watching this little boy since he was 4 years old. He is now 6'2" and 190 pounds. And he fell into my arms, sobbing. And as I'm holding him there, I remember thinking to myself, am I his Aunt Janet or his Uncle Jay? And I know that in this moment and forever, I will be his Aunt Janet. Because if I had been born with a penis, I wouldn't be here. Because we don't invite men to those conversations. See, what you all call gender is just classic training and expected behavior. My brothers were never expected to be there. Which is why if you make me pick a box, I will always pick female. Because I'm classically trained female, and I am so grateful for that. I hope by now you've started to figure out that genitals are not gender. But let me throw you a little curveball here for a minute. First of all, let me see who's in the room. The word cis means same. So if you are born with female genitalia and you think of yourself as a woman, you are a cisgendered woman. If you are born with a penis and you think of yourself as a man, you are a cisgendered man. So just to show of hands, how many cisgendered people we got in the room tonight? Okay, quite a few. All right, so now of you cisgendered people, how many of you would identify as straight and or heterosexual? All right? Okay, queer people, you might want to just go to the bar and get another drink. I've worked with this population a long time and it takes a minute, okay? So let me go really slow. For you straight cisgender people, I know it seems like and you feel like you're the only ones here. But the truth is that 1.7% of the population is born intersexed. Now, intersex babies are born with over 30 varieties of how their chromosomes and or genitalia may be displayed. What I want to know is, what color cake does the intersex baby get? I mean, I know it seems like 1.7% of the population is not very much, but you know it's the same percentage of people who have red hair. How many gingers do you know? So could we say that an intersex baby could maybe be lavender? And could we have you as excited about having an intersex baby as you would about a pink or blue baby? Genitals are not gender. And so hold on to your hats, because let me throw you a curveball. Even those little intersex babies with their lavender genitals, that's not their gender. They're gonna grow up and maybe they'll grow up to be pink or blue. We don't know, because their genitals do not equal their gender. Now, hopefully, I think you're bright people, by now you have figured out that my genitals are pink. Really soft pink. But I'm purple, and I don't fit into your boxes. In fact, I wrote a song about it. Want to hear it? Here we go. Oh, I am a woman. Excuse me. Oh, I am a woman with a beard and no tits, or a man with a vagina and a great big clit. Either way, I don't fit in your boxes. Either way, I don't fit in your boxes. So thank you for attending the gender reveal party. I hope that you've learned something today. And no matter what, Next time you get an invitation to a gender reveal party, don't forget, hashtag genital reveal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.